Just ahead on American Black Journal, what's the state of the black child in Michigan? We'll discuss the efforts to improve the quality of life for young children and their families. Plus, we'll talk with the founder of a successful Detroit-based construction company about the ups and downs of being an entrepreneur. We have two very interesting and important conversations ahead, so stay with us.
At DTE Energy, we believe that we have a greater responsibility. We believe that being part of a community means being involved in the fabric of that community, investing time, effort, and resources in the communities we serve. DTE Energy Foundation is a proud sponsor of American Black Journal.
Welcome to American Black Journal. I'm Stephen Henderson. As we've heard many times, the first few years of a child's life are vital to his or her development. That's why quality education during early childhood can lead to success in high school and beyond. The Detroit affiliate of the National Black Child Development Institute is holding a town hall meeting later this month to engage the community in a conversation about the policies that impact early childhood here in Michigan. And in October, the national organization will hold its annual conference in Detroit. Joining me now is the president of the Detroit affiliate, Dr. Charmaine Johnson, along with the co-chair of the Public Policy Committee, Carol Quarterman. Welcome to American Black Journal.
Thank you.
You know, it seems like this is a big topic everywhere in public policy circles right now, is the new focus on the impact that early childhood has on the rest of somebody's life. I mean, it seems like everywhere I look, I'm reading something new that talks about that early development and how important it is.
Yes. The National Black Child Development for more than 45 years has been engaging in activities that relate to child development, early childhood education. We engage with policymakers. We're all a volunteer organization, and our focus has been around children's literacy, health issues, and also the developmental skills that children must acquire before moving into other stages of development.
Right, right, and that's really the key here. Is it's about getting kids to the point where they need to be by the time they start school. I mean, I think we put a lot of responsibility on K-12 to make sure kids get what they need, but just as important is that they show up ready to receive all of that, right?
That's correct.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. So the conference that's going to be here. Talk to me about.
Are you well? So far as the national.
We've got two, right?
Yes, we have two.
Right.
The national conference, as you mentioned, is October 11th through the 14th. It's going to be at the Detroit Marriott. But as one of our activities, not just because the conference is coming, but as a part of the ongoing work of the Detroit affiliate, we host public policy forums. So this will be our third one in the last 12 months. And we do that in partnership with our national office, as well as with the Alliance for Early Success, which is a coalition nationally of organizations particularly concerned with the development of children birth to 8 years old. So as you mentioned, it's been an exciting time, and part of what's really driven the attention to what's happening those first 1,000 days of a child's life is the brain science research.
Right.
And so we know that now it is foundational development occurs, both in terms of social emotional development and intellectual development. And so that is logical that we have to look into the public policy arena, because it is public policy that impacts the everyday life of children and families throughout this country,
right,
and particularly black children.
But particularly black children. That's what I was going to say, is that this would seem to be the sort of nexus of a lot of the issues that you see in black communities later, is the lack of attention to those first 3 years. Yeah.
And in terms of what's needed to really support families, what kind of positive policies we need to support and empower parents, to the family, to really be able to care for their children. Often, you know, in our community, you often hear the phrase, well, everything is political.
Yeah.
But beyond saying everything's political, we don't necessarily really then take the deep dive in terms of what is the political process, in terms of policy development, in terms of laws, regulations, budgets, which then really provide the framework and that then drive the impact. And if policies are based on negative assumptions
Sure.
or biased assumptions about black children and families and not the strengths, or all children and families really, then we have a negative, policies can have a negative
They have a negative
impact.
effect, right, right. So talk to me then about what are some of the policies we're talking about that you feel like really directly impact these critical years?
Well, we're looking at child development, and we're also looking at one of the issues that we thought about the other day was the fact of what's happening in terms of water being cut off in homes of
sure.
families that have children. And we have to make sure that children are protected in all environments, not only in their educational development, but also in their home life. It's so important for them
Right.
to have the things that they need. We want children to be in supportive environments where the family and the school and the community are working together for the needs of children.
Right, right.
So policies, public policies, as Dr. Johnson is saying, should be preventive in nature. They should not be causing problems.
Right.
So in terms of the water shutoffs, is any attention being given to the fact that within this family there may be a newborn infant, there may be a child
Sure.
with special needs? We oftentimes hear things framed about seniors, but what about children?
But what about
I mean,
kids?
water is a human right.
Right.
If you talk in terms of positive preventive policies, and then you have a negative policy that cuts people off, not because it's required by federal law, but cuts people off after 4 years of receiving cash assistance, then who's following up to see what's happened to
Right.
those families? What's
Right.
happened
And what's happened
to
to those children? Right.
In terms of educational policy, are funds and programs being targeted in such a way that you're really creating equity for children that are at greater risk or that have greater needs? Or are you using those public dollars to really target? We often hear target the poorest, but is
Right.
that the impact of the current policy that's
Right.
in place?
Right. We're spending more now in Michigan on early ed than we were before. It's about $60 million a year extra for that. What's the impact that we're seeing of that in places like Detroit, where that need is the greatest? Is that making a difference?
Oh, I believe it is making a difference. And I believe that the more that we put into early childhood development, the data shows that children do better in life. So many of the children who have had a Head Start program and
Yeah.
a preschool program, they reduce the incarceration rate. Also, they're job ready, and they seem to be more successful when they've had a good, wholesome early childhood background.
Right. Right.
There's no doubt that it's making a difference,
Yeah.
but is it making a difference at the level and
the-
the scope that
right,
it needs to
right.
in terms of our great need? To what extent? So when you look at a program like Great Start Readiness, which I think you're particularly referring to, it
Sure.
makes a difference whether or not it's funding half-day slots or full-day
Or
slots.
full-day
So
slots,
if you do
sure.
Full-day slots, you're servicing fewer children.
Right.
In the state of Michigan, just 2 years ago, only 21% of the 4-year-olds, and that's a program that targets 4-year-olds, could be served by the Great Start Readiness program.
Right.
And so we have many, many more
There's
children
a lot more
who
kids
are
who
in
need it. Yeah.
than the capacity of the program to serve them.
Right.
And that's true also of Head Start, and it's certainly true of other programs that provide family support to new parents, to teen parents,
Right.
to that are just available in the community to target our focused population, the birth to age 8 group.
Right. What kind of help do parents need in sort of meeting the needs of their kids that you're finding in this community?
Right. Some of the parents really need support, and they need to know where they can go to get their needs met.
Right.
Yeah, so BCDI has really been somewhat of a change agent in terms of trying to redirect them. Some of them are in need of health assistance. Also, money management is another area that is important.
Yeah.
Also, if it's a teen mother, where can she go to get resources to encourage her to continue with her education? It's important that we look at what the community needs, and often we have gone to the community and those who are in need and not wait for them to come to us for assistance.
Right, right.
And it's important that those resources be accessible. So a public policy issue that we're hearing from those that are registering for our forum on July 26 is that we need more integrated services.
Okay.
There are services, but they're in little silos.
They're
and they're dispersed.
all over the place,
They're
sure.
all over the place, restricted eligibility requirements. We need more services that are comprehensive and holistic and that are accessible, that are neighborhood-based. You know, it's very difficult for a parent in Detroit to have
To get someplace.
travel,
Yes.
to have to travel out county in order to receive services. They also have to be culturally sensitive. They have to respect the parents and have a role for parent voice.
Right.
You don't engage parents if they feel disrespected.
If they feel like,
and,
yeah, right.
and that they are not included in the decision making. So one of our national public policy priorities is to look at policies to see if they really are empowering families or if they're creating barriers.
Right.
If they really are engaging the community or if they're creating problems and divisiveness. And oftentimes that occurs when data that should really be driving, or as Dr. Johnson said, information that should really be driving the development of policies is not looked at at the level of ethnicity,
Right.
at the location, when
Right.
you look only at state data in terms of a dashboard and you don't break out African Americans, Latinos,
Sure.
American Indians.
different.
It's different,
It's different.
entirely different picture.
Yeah, yeah. What's the connection between this and the K-12 system? We haven't done a whole lot to shore up K-12 either in Michigan in a long time, and I feel like if you invest heavily at the early child level, sometimes you can undo some of that by not making quality K-12 choices available enough.
That's true, yeah. Well, what we look at is that when a child is first born, that parent, that mother, that father, they are the child's first teacher.
First teacher, sure.
And they are the first teacher, and they should continue with the development of their child. It's not I drop you off in kindergarten and first grade and I pick you up in grade 12.
Right.
It's a continuous process. Often parents need encouragement in terms of what they can do to identify, if need be, developmental delays.
Right.
You know,
right.
if you know that a child should be doing certain things at a certain age and that is not taking place, then that's a signal.
Right, and you have to intervene. You have to move quickly to
Early
deal with that.
intervention, and
Yeah.
it saves a lot of time and it saves a lot of resources, and it helps for the success level of young children. So education is a continuous process. It does not stop in one grade,
Right.
but it goes and follows throughout the child's entire development and throughout their life.
Yeah. yeah.
So this is one thing that BCDI really looks at is the whole
The
child
whole
and the
child
wellness.
and the whole, yeah.
Yes.
And looks at
Really quick.
preventing future problems. So in terms of a public policy or a new law that was passed, if children can't read at the third grade level, they're going to be held back. Well,
Right.
why wait until they can't read? Why
right.
not put in reading specialists and the kinds of supports
Early.
families need when that child is birthed to 5 years old before they even get to kindergarten? And
Right.
then once you get to kindergarten, first, second, and third grade, are there reading specialists that are funded
support
within
that.
those classrooms that really support and move children along
Yeah.
in their development? So that's, you know, what I call a positive preventive
Right.
focus on policy development and the allocation
Yeah.
of resources.
Okay, great to have you guys here, and great that the conventions will be here, the both of them. So
Thank you.
thanks.
Thank you.
Just ahead on American Black Journal, an African-American-owned company in Detroit celebrates a milestone. We'll talk with the founder next, right after this look at some important moments in Detroit's Black history.
I'm Ken Coleman with a look back at African American life in Detroit. This week in 1967, the Detroit Rebellion began after city police raided a blind pig on the west side. A 7-day civil disturbance ensued. Also in 1967, Reflections by Diana Ross and the Supremes was released by Motown Records, the first album under the group's new name. And in 1984, the Reverend C.L. Franklin died after spending years in a coma. He had been the victim of a burglary at his West Side home in 1979. These are significant events this week in Detroit's Black History, taken from the book On This Day, African American Life in Detroit.
This month marks the 25th anniversary of the Detroit-based firm White Construction. The company has consistently made Black Enterprise Magazine's top 100 list of the country's largest African-American owned businesses. White Construction's footprint in Detroit includes several major projects, such as Campus Martius, the Detroit Riverwalk, Comerica Park, and Ford Field. Now the company can add the new Red Wings hockey arena and the M1 rail stations to its list of projects. I'm pleased to welcome the founder and president of White Construction, Bernard White, to American Black Journal.
Thank you.
25 years. I'm looking at you thinking you must have been a very young man when you started this company if it was 25 years ago.
25 years ago, I was 34 years old, and prior to that, I worked 8 years at the Detroit Water and Sewage Department, and after that, I worked 8 years at 2 major construction firms prior to starting White Construction. So I've been in this business, construction,
A long time.
about 41 years.
Right,
yes.
right.
Yes.
Since you were 18.
17 or 18,
Yeah,
yes, exactly.
right,
yes.
right. Wow. I want to talk about M1 in particular, which I think is one of the more exciting things that's happening in downtown Detroit. We talk about it a lot as a transit project, which it is or isn't, depending on who you ask. But we don't talk as much about the stations themselves, which are a big part of this. I mean, the idea is that these stations will inspire development around them and change the area significantly. So you've got a hand in one of the very big parts of this project.
Yes, we will be a subcontractor. We'll be involved with safety for the entire project. I have a safety manager on the project, and also we will be involved with building the 20 stations from downtown Detroit up to Grand Boulevard. This year, we plan to put in about 5 concrete platforms to begin the construction for those stations. They will primarily be in and around downtown. And next year, we will be adding the precast structures, if you will, that go on top of the stations that basically provide some type of shelter from the elements for the riders. But additionally, these stations will be designed different for various sponsors who want to have their imprint, if you will, on these stations. And, and
it's companies are
exactly
sponsors.
So that'd be very exciting to see the various stations that are alike but different in other ways too.
Right, right. Entrepreneur in Detroit, I think that phrase right there suggests some resilience and stick-to-itiveness. That's pretty important. This is a tough place to run your own business of any kind. I would think, especially for an African-American business owner, that's a tough road.
It is tough. We've had a lot of successes and a lot of challenges, and I would say for every success we had challenges within them.
Yeah.
And for every challenge we've had successes in them. So, I have to say that African-American owned firms like my own, White Construction, have had a lot of great opportunities in Detroit. The Detroit community, Detroit citizens, the City of Detroit mayors and their administrations have really supported African-American owned businesses, Detroit headquartered businesses, as well as trying to support Detroit residents getting involved. And that's something that we've become very good at on our projects, trying to make sure that we get Detroit residents involved, Detroit contractors, et cetera. And so that's been huge. Our challenge, Stephen, is trying to see how can we take our show more mainstream. And we've been very successful in and around Detroit. I would like to see us be able to do more mainstream work now that we've demonstrated that we can do major projects successfully on time and within budget. If we can take that act and maybe do more work around
Southeast Michigan,
exactly.
right. Is that still a barrier, you feel, getting work outside of the city?
I don't know that it's a barrier. I will have to admit that we have to work a little bit harder to demonstrate and to go after some of those opportunities. And I also have to say that we've had so many great opportunities here in the city of Detroit that we haven't had to go after that and chase it as hard. So we have to look within ourselves and figure out what can we do to get at some of those opportunities, but also we like to have people open their arms and give us some of those opportunities too. And hopefully they won't have to necessarily be mandated. They can just look at us as a contractor that can do the work and not necessarily as a Black or Detroit contractor.
Sure. Take me back to that day 25 years ago, the first day of operation for White Construction. How did you get to that point? I mean, what made you think, I want to do this on my own, and then what did it take to get it up and running?
Well, I had spent about 8 years in two major construction firms, and we worked on major projects. I worked on the first expansion of Cobo Hall in 1986. I even was involved with the erection of the Joe Louis Fisk, putting the platform down for it and coordinating that. Trappers Alley in Greektown, which of course is now gone, but I was in charge of that project. So I learned a lot of different things during that tenure, if you will, and I thought possibly I could do this myself. And additionally, I had a lot of great mentors that I could look at, or role models, people like Glenn Wash and Associates, Williamson and Richardson, Charlie Stewart, and many others who were black contractors that were doing a great job. And so they served as a role model to help me think that maybe I could do that myself.
You could do it too, sure.
So, but on July 31st, 1989 is when I hung my hat up and started. I had a desk, a phone, and a computer. And some testicular fortitude, if you will. And I got started.
Yeah. So, and the thing that I think people don't quite get is the capital that's needed to start your own business. That it's not cheap.
It's not cheap. In my case, Steve, I think I had saved up about $20,000. I don't mind sharing this with everyone. And I gave myself about a 6-month window to say, hey, I can probably take care of my household expenses, et cetera, for 6 months before I would have to go back and get another job. And I was okay with that, because I figured that's really all I had was a job, and I could always go back and get a job if it didn't work out. But I didn't want to wake up and be 60 years old and say I wish I had given it a shot. So I wanted to give it a shot to get that out of my system, and luckily for me, it really worked out very well.
Right. And your training was you're an engineer,
Yes.
You'd worked in construction. Running your own business, though, requires a different skill set
Absolutely.
in terms of
Yes.
management and
Yes.
leadership and vision and those kind of
Yes.
things. Where do you feel like you got that from?
You know, I tell everybody a lot of times that I'm an introverted engineer type person that really likes to sit in the corner and do his job and make things happen.
Like all engineers.
Exactly. And so people figure since you're the head of your company, you should be, outgoing and, that type of thing, extroverted. That's not me. I like to just do a great job, and then that's it. But I've learned over the years that it's less engineering for me, and it's more about managing people. It's more about relationships and that type of thing. And I'm getting better at it, I think.
Yeah. What would you say to young people in the city who might say, hey, maybe someday I own my own business? What are the things they need to do, or the experiences they need to try to get for themselves to be successful at that?
And typically what I do is share with them my experience. Growing up in a single parent home, my grandmother used to get up every morning and cook me a full breakfast before I went to high school. And she would sit down and tell me about her life in South Carolina growing up. But she encouraged me to get the best education I could, and she told me that, when I get to be a man, I could do anything I want. And because I trusted her integrity and her intelligence, I did exactly that. So when I go to Detroit Public Schools and I talk to a lot of young black children, sometimes I ask them to stand up and tell me their name and maybe what they want to be when they grow up. And typically I get responses like, I'm going to be a rap artist, or I want to play basketball. And I ask the question, if you go to the grocery store and you want to get in and out fast, what line do you get in? And they say, well, you go to the express line, you go to the shortest line. I said, well, basketball and rap artists, that's the longest line there is.
Line, right?
You can do something else and be rather average or kind of good, like an engineer, attorney, doctor, or something like that if you study hard for it, and do extremely well. Right. And you can see the lights going on in their head when you share that.
The calculus changes, right?
So I would say get a good education and work very, very hard. And that's something that I've done. I've worked very hard, and I'm probably not the smartest guy in the world, but I'll outwork my counterparts.
Right,
for sure.
right. Well, and that's a key. That's a real key component. That again, resilience, never giving up and keeping at it. I'm wondering, you've worked on so many different things in the city, and the city has changed dramatically over that time. It looks so different, especially downtown, than it did. What's your sense of where we're headed? Is it in the right direction? Do we have a lot more work to do? Are we doing the right things to make this a better place?
I'm excited about Detroit's future. I think, and I'm also excited to be here to witness it. I mean, of course, we've been talking about it for years and years when Detroit going to come back around, but I think Detroit is going to do well. I think there's so much pent-up demand and development for things going in Detroit. I'm already speaking to various developers from far away as Australia that are investing in Detroit and doing things, and we're starting to do things for them in the residential market. So there's a lot of people beginning to invest in Detroit, and I'm hopeful that a lot of us, existing black entrepreneurs and also some of the Detroit residents will be able to participate going forward over the next
Sure.
25 years, because we've been here for a long time, and I think it's important that we have that opportunity to participate going forward.
Right. Do you feel like there's a danger that you won't be included or that people will be left out?
I don't know that there's a danger. I just think we need to continue to advocate for opportunities
vigilant
for
about it.
Detroit residents and Detroit businesses. And additionally, a lot of us have great experience. We know Detroit, we know the subcontractor community,
Sure.
we know the business community, so it makes good sense from a business point of view to keep us involved. Of course, we pay taxes, our employees pay taxes,
Right.
so it makes sense from a business point of view to do that way.
Okay. Well, congratulations on 25 years, and here's to 25 more, right?
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you very much.
That's our program for today. Thanks for watching. You can get more information about our guests at AmericanBlackJournal.org. And as always, you can connect with us on Facebook and on Twitter. We'll see you next time on American Black Journal.
At DTE Energy, we believe that we have a greater responsibility. We believe that being part of a community means being involved in the fabric of that community, investing time, effort, and resources in the communities we serve. DTE Energy Foundation is a proud sponsor of American Black Journal.